Good evening, and welcome to Point of View. Tonight, we're discussing a topic that brings up strong feelings for many people. Is it ethical to keep wild animals as pets? It's an issue that fills our social media feeds with amazing pictures, but also with sad stories. On one side, some people believe that with the right knowledge and care, it's possible to give a good home to an exotic animal. On the other side, many argue that a wild animal's place is always in the wild. They believe that keeping them in our homes is cruel, selfish, and dangerous. To help us understand this complex issue, we have two excellent guests. Here with us is Dr. Anna Vance, a veterinarian who has specialized in exotic animals for over 15 years. Welcome, Dr. Vance.
Thank you for having me, Leo. It's an important conversation.
And joining her is Ben Carter, a wildlife conservationist. Ben works to protect natural habitats and stop the illegal animal trade around the globe. Welcome, Ben.
It's good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Great. Let's begin with your opening statements. Dr. Vance, you believe that in some situations it can be ethical. Could you explain your position?
Of course. Thank you, Leo. I want to start by saying this is not a simple question with a simple yes or no answer. We're not talking about people buying tigers because they look exciting on a TV show. That is clearly wrong. The real conversation is about responsibility, education, and strong, intelligent regulation. For me, the question isn't whether we can keep wild animals, but how we should do it ethically and safely. First, we must separate the idea of a casual pet owner from a dedicated, knowledgeable specialist. Most people aren't equipped to own a wild animal, and they should not. It requires a deep, scientific understanding of the animal's biological and psychological needs. It requires a specially designed environment that copies their natural habitat as much as possible, and it requires a lot of money and a lifetime commitment. However, there are people, private owners, licensed breeders, and educators who have this expert knowledge. They can provide excellent, world-class care. Sometimes, the environments they build are even safer for the animals than their native homes. In the wild, many animals face constant threats from predators, loss of their habitat due to human activity, and poachers. Second, let's talk about the importance of rules. I'm a strong supporter of very strict laws to govern ownership. These laws should control exactly who can own these animals. A person should need a special license, and getting that license should be very difficult. They must prove they have the correct training, the right facilities, and a clear plan for the animal's entire life. This system would stop the wrong people from getting these animals and ensure the animal's welfare is always the first priority. Finally, responsible private ownership can be a powerful tool for conservation. Some species are critically endangered in the wild, with numbers dropping to dangerously low levels. Licensed, ethical breeding programs in private hands can help increase their numbers and preserve genetic diversity. These animals can then become part of larger, global plans to save the species from disappearing completely. They also act as ambassadors for their species, helping to educate the public about the importance of conservation. So a complete ban is not the best solution, because it ignores these benefits. The answer is strict regulation and education.
Thank you, Dr. Vance. A very detailed position. Ben, you have a different perspective. Please, share your opening statement.
Thank you. I respect Dr. Vance's experience and her clear passion for animal welfare. However, I must disagree completely with the conclusion that private ownership can be ethical. The idea that a wild animal can be truly happy and healthy in a private home is a dangerous fantasy. These animals are the product of millions of years of evolution. Their bodies and their minds are made for a specific, natural environment. A house, or even a large, expensive garden, can never replace the complexity of the wild. First, and most importantly, think about the animal's daily experience and its feelings. They need huge amounts of space to run, fly, climb, or swim. A bird's instinct is to fly for miles, not just across a room. They need to hunt for food, to hide from danger, and to live with other animals of their own kind in complex social groups. When you take that away, they suffer. This isn't just sadness, it's a deep psychological stress. We see this suffering in their behavior. We see birds pulling out their own feathers, or big cats walking back and forth in their cages for hours. This is called stereotypical behavior, and it's a clear sign of a mind that is not well. It's a sign of a broken spirit. Second, it creates a huge and unnecessary risk to public safety. These are not domestic animals, like cats and dogs. We've lived with them for thousands of years, breeding them to be our companions. Wild animals are, by their nature, unpredictable. Their instincts are powerful. A monkey that seems friendly and playful can suddenly become aggressive and bite. A large snake can escape and threaten a neighborhood. Every year, there are terrible stories of people, often children, being seriously injured or even killed by these pets. It's not fair to the animal to be put in a situation where its instincts are a danger, and it's not fair to the community to be exposed to that risk. Finally, the trade in wild animals is a direct and powerful threat to conservation. Even if you buy from a so-called good breeder, your purchase sends a message that these animals are products to be owned. This demand helps the illegal wildlife trade, a cruel and criminal business that is pushing many species toward extinction. For every one animal that makes it to a home, many others, perhaps 5 or 10, die during capture or transportation. The best way to show our love for these incredible animals is to protect them in their natural homes. We must fight to save their habitats, not put them in our houses.
Thank you, Ben. You both bring up very important points that are in direct opposition. Ben, you ended by talking about the illegal trade. Dr. Vance, Ben says that any kind of ownership, legal or not, supports this terrible business by creating demand. How can you be sure that a legal market doesn't just make the problem worse?
That's a fair and very common question. It seems logical to think that, but the reality is often the opposite. When you make something completely illegal, you don't make it disappear, you create a black market. This black market is uncontrolled, it's run by criminals, and the animals in it suffer the most. There's no oversight at all. A legal but very strictly regulated system does two things. First, it allows us to track every single animal. With modern tools like microchips and official genetic records, we can know where an animal comes from and where it goes. This creates accountability. Second, it provides a legal and observable source for the very few people, the research facilities, the accredited zoos, the true specialists, who should have these animals. This reduces the demand for animals that are stolen from the wild. Think of it like this. History has shown us that prohibition often creates more problems than it solves. Regulation and transparency are much better tools to fight illegal activity. We can control a market we can see. We cannot control one that is hidden in the shadows.
Ben, what's your response to that? Can regulation really work? Or is it just a nice idea that is impossible in practice?
It's a nice idea, but in the real world, it's a fantasy. The level of regulation Dr. Vance is describing would be incredibly expensive and complex to enforce. Who pays for the inspectors? Who has the expertise to check on every single species, from a tiny frog to a huge bear? Government agencies are already underfunded. They can't even stop the illegal trade we have now. What happens in reality is that people find ways around the rules. They create false documents. They bribe officials. And the average person who sees a cute animal on the internet and decides they want one isn't thinking about regulations. They are the real face of this problem, and they create the mass market. Dr. Vance is talking about a perfect world with perfect owners. I work in the real world, where things are messy and not perfect. For every one expert with a PhD and a perfect facility, there are thousands of people who are not prepared. They buy a small, cute baby animal. But that animal grows up. It becomes big, difficult, and expensive. they can't take care of it anymore. So what happens? They abandon it in the wild, where it will likely die, or they give it to a sanctuary. Sanctuaries and rescue centers across the country are full of these animals. They are overflowing with sad stories of neglect. The expert owner is the rare exception. Laws have to be made for the majority of situations, not the exception. We cannot create a rule based on a few perfect examples, when the reality for most of these animals is suffering.
But Ben, that sounds like a problem with irresponsible people, not a problem with the idea of ownership itself. We don't ban cars because some people are bad drivers. We create rules, we require tests and licenses, and we punish people who break the rules. We should apply the same logic here. The answer is to stop the irresponsible people with strong enforcement and serious penalties. We should not punish the responsible ones, and in the process, remove the potential benefits for education and conservation that I mentioned. These expert owners can be partners in saving species, not enemies.
But a car is a machine. It does not feel. An animal is a living, feeling being. It feels stress, fear, and pain. I believe we have a basic moral duty to cause no harm, or at least to minimize it. And the risk of harm here to the animal's mental and physical health and to public safety is just too high. It's not the same as driving a car. The animal has no choice in the matter. It is a prisoner even in a golden cage. And we haven't even talked about the risk of diseases. Many exotic animals carry viruses and bacteria that can be passed to humans, so-called zoonotic diseases. This is a major public health concern. The closer we bring wild animals into our homes, the greater the risk of a new pandemic.
That's another important point, the risk of disease. Dr. Vance, how does your model of regulation address that?
That is an extremely important point, and it's another reason why regulation is better than prohibition. In a regulated system, every animal would be required to have a full health check from a qualified veterinarian. They would be tested for known diseases and quarantined for a period of time before they can be moved to a new owner. This is standard practice in professional zoos, and it should be the standard for any private owner too. In the illegal black market that Ben's proposal would strengthen, there are no health checks. There are no quarantines. Animals with diseases are moved across borders, creating a much bigger health risk than a controlled legal system ever would. Again, the problem is not ownership. The problem is a lack of control. My proposal is about creating that control.
I still believe the risk is too great. We can't test for every possible disease. New viruses appear all the time. The safest approach is the simplest one. Keep wild animals in the wild, where they belong. It protects them, and it protects us.
This has been a very deep and informative debate. We're running short on time, so I'd like to ask you both for a brief closing statement. Ben, you first, please.
Thank you. The evidence we see every day in our conservation work is clear. Keeping wild animals as pets is fundamentally cruel to the animal. It takes away its freedom, its social structure, and its natural life. It's dangerous for our communities, putting our friends and families at unnecessary risk from attacks and disease. And it supports the criminal networks that are destroying our planet's beautiful biodiversity for profit. True appreciation for wild animals is about respecting their wildness. The best thing we can do for them is to support conservation efforts that protect them in their natural habitats. We should support real sanctuaries that rescue animals, not breeders who create more for a life in a cage. Let's love them enough to leave them in the wild.
Thank you, Ben. And Dr. Vance, your final thoughts?
I agree that we must protect animals. Our goal is the same, even if our methods are different. But a complete ban is a simple answer to a very complex problem. It ignores the fact that responsible, expert ownership can provide a high quality of life. It can even help save a species from extinction through breeding programs. Our focus should be on creating strong, intelligent regulations that separate the experts from the ignorant. We must demand expertise, we must require licenses, and we must severely punish those who are cruel or irresponsible. The enemy here is ignorance and cruelty, not the idea of ownership itself. Let's choose education and careful regulation, not a complete prohibition that will only drive the problem underground.
Thank you both, Dr. Vance and Ben Carter, for a very thoughtful and important discussion tonight. You've given us all a lot to think about, from the needs of the individual animal to the bigger picture of conservation and public safety. It's clear there are no easy answers. That's all the time we have for tonight. Thank you for watching Point of View. Good night.